I build my business. Well, I build my business and I live based on what I call the 20/80 rule. And it's not what everybody else calls the 20/80 rule. I'm not a huge fan of what everybody else talks about the 20/80 rule. Mine is based on this. I think everybody on this call, I'd be shocked if this weren't true, but I think everybody on this call is freakishly talented and you have a ridiculous amount of knowledge and skill. Okay. So based on that, I'm not looking to get paid for every single thing I do. Okay. That doesn't bring me peace. That doesn't bring me contentment. That doesn't allow me to act in unselfishly just a level of compassion and empathy that I want to embody. So the 20/80 rule is this. You have to know, you have to have freakish levels of self-awareness as to where you are knowledgeable, where you are skilled, and where you can bring value to people. And I guarantee that's going to be a lot more areas than you have time to monetize. Okay. So the 20/80 rule for me is this, is know what you're 100% capable of, and then decide what is the 20% of that that you want to monetize. The other 80%, freaking give that stuff away like you wouldn't believe. That's the 20/80 rule to me. You are capable of so much. Figure out what's the 20% you're going to monetize and systemize that like nobody's business. Okay. And what I do with this 80% is this. If I ever get asked anything more than 3 times, if I ever have to say anything more than 3 times, if I ever have to share anything, teach anything, repeat myself more than 3 times, I make a tool or resource around that. I make myself freakishly scalable and duplicatable. If you're going to ask me something, or if I have to talk to people more than 3 times about anything, I'm making a graphic, I'm writing a blog, I'm recording a video about it. Because everything starts and ends with compassion for me. Everything. If we can't talk about compassion, I'm just freaking out. Okay. So based on compassion is I know for this, none of us can show up our best version of ourselves every day at all times. And so one person asked me the same question that someone else asked me yesterday. And yesterday I was I was on fire. And today I just don't have the time, or I'm tired, or I'm worn out. I don't have clarity, whatever it is. I'm short on coffee. Okay. Parent goes in the hospital, whatever it is. Okay. The fact is I want to make sure that when that person comes to me, that they still get obviously the best version of me that I'm capable of. So what I do is I work very hard at putting together, because I know that everybody learns differently. Some people, if you give them anything bigger than an Instagram square graphic, it's too much information for them. Then someone else wants a freaking blog and they just want to read, 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 read. The next person, you give them something to read, it ain't ever going to happen. Okay. So you got to give them a little video. And then there's probably going to be a 5-minute version of that video. And there's probably going to be a 3-hour workshop on that video. Okay. So that everybody can get the best version of you. So everybody who sees that video gets the same level of service, love, and compassion that I gave to that person that I was my best version of that day. So think about that as an 80/20 rule. And then what I'm doing is, and Justin already knows where I'm going to be going with this, everything for me is based on the 5x5. Everything has to be scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient. So let's talk about scalable and duplicatable. What I just talked about, if I'm going to do that 20/80, I'm going to monetize 20%. I'm going to give away the other 80%, but it doesn't matter if it's my 20 or 80, that still has to be scalable and duplicatable. And especially for that 80%, if I'm going to be scalable and duplicatable and give that stuff away, okay, I love it. So I see Justin putting those up. So let me do this for you, Justin, make it even easier. Anybody else anybody who wants these graphics, I'm totally fine with this. Anybody can steal this stuff. I don't care. And I have all this available on free Canva graphics and stuff. I get people that I will see them making videos and I see this graphic with their logo on it on their back wall, all blown up and everything else like that. I could care less. I tell everybody, take everything I've got, steal it, rebrand it, and then tell everybody you invented it. I just don't freaking care. Okay. If it's going to bring value, that's all I care about. It's literally all I care about. Okay. So I can jump in here, but Justin, I hope that opens up the door because when you had said, I've connected David with so and so and so and so, and he just, he helps and he calls, that's my 80%. And I'm telling you, that stuff jazzes me like nobody's business. But I've designed my life that way that I'm available to do that.
It, if we could put a pin, here's what it is I've been told by other people that have been able to really build an unusually big network. Rob shared that with me. Other people have shared that with me. And here's what I have found, and here's why I like grid, and here's why if you build a network based off of deep relationship
Yep.
and you build a network based off of service, there's no way to fake vulnerability and connection. If we base it off of success and achievement, like we know this, look at like the stock market, look at finance, like sociopaths can thrive in those kind of environments, right? They don't thrive in let's be deeply vulnerable and let's talk about what's happening with our aging parents, right? Let's talk about like where we
Yep.
are really today and showing up there. And when you do that, and then you find people that have a servant's heart, what I found is it's so many times I'm like, David sent me a great message. He's like, I love that you're always trying to like help Jamie or help Scott or you're doing this for somebody. It was this fascinating way of like uh, uh, building equity, building reputation. And so, Drew, I'd love to hear this from you, man. This is the first time you're seeing this. Drew is a systems guy. Drew is a
Yep.
as an ex KW team leader, right? Yeah, social currency. It is, and this is how you build social currency is by helping other people. And what I found is, man, you will never, if I go, hey Rob, you're so amazing at this thing, would you help Jamie at this thing you're amazing at? Oh my gosh, anybody who is looking to give back that could actually find someone that's going to take the information they use, the 1% is actually going to use it.
Yep.
Oh, I don't care if they're the executive or they always make time for that person, right?
Yep.
So that's how you get here today. So Drewski, my man, scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, efficient. What are your thoughts here? Let's talk about those
So,
five lenses. Which of those jumps out at you?
so first off, I just want to say the way I live my life is give it out in slices. You get it back in loaves, right? And it sounds like David is the exact same here. So, I mean, this is amazing. I like because of where I am on my weird spectrum. I like freakishly predictable.
100%.
Mm,
When things get a little off and they're not predictable, I start to get a little uncomfortable. And so
Mhm.
everything I want to do and everything I've done in my business as a coach, as a TL, it's all predictable. Like
Yep.
anyone who's been with me for more than a year will know what I'm going to say when they ask a question, probably because it's freakishly predictable.
Yep. 100%.
well, I like
I,
Drew. I mean, I like what Rob asked. That's fantastic, Drew. That's fantastic. I am not freakishly predictable, which is why I'm so attracted to people that are have systems in place. Rob says, "How does this show up in an agent's real life?"
yeah. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things here. Let's talk about each one of these points real quick, and then let's talk about real practical applications. So the one thing is, and I'm just going to start right there because Drew brought it up, freakishly predictable. Why do I use the phrase freakishly predictable? Um, God bless the real estate, business industry, whatever you want to call it. But we got so many one-liners that are so wrong and so stupid and so anti-productive and helpful to ourselves, such as, every deal's different. No, it freaking is not. It really is not. Okay? We are in one of the most predictable businesses, period. Okay? Here's the differences. I'm starting from a different mindset than someone that is like, well, I can't, every deal's different, every person's different. No, they're freaking not. No, they're not. Everything is freakishly predictable. So here's the thing is, you do not base systems and you do not build systems based on exceptions. You can't. And I'm telling you, what happens in one deal, it's going to happen, 85% of everything that happens in one deal is going to happen in another deal. 85% is a pretty high percentage to me. I'm going to build systems
Yeah,
around that. Okay. I don't care if it's lead generation systems. I don't care if it's marketing. I don't care if it's negotiating a deal. I don't, from contract to post close. 85% of what happens in one deal happens in every single deal. We are in such a freakishly predictable business. It's not even funny. And if your mindset doesn't start there, you're already starting behind the 8 ball. Okay? So the deal is this. I have heard this line forever and a day, which is you need to be proactive. Come on. That's such a low bar. Why do I consider that a low bar? Being proactive is nothing more than being reactive sooner in the process. How is that impressive?
You want to be predictive.
So the deal is I'm still being reactive. I'm just being reactive earlier in the process. How about sit down and really map out what are the things that I can predict on every single deal? And I put systems in place. So I'm going to use an example. Now, this is a very generic example, but if you think I can't take this into every single example, you're just kidding yourself, okay? Let's just talk about from contract to post-closing, an appraisal's got to be done, okay? So when I'm building systems for our admin and everything else like that, when I ask an average admin or an agent who doesn't have admin, okay, don't forget, you either have a transaction coordinator or you freaking are the transaction coordinator, okay? So as an agent, okay, you either have one or you are one. That's all there is to it, okay? So with that is we know that 85% of the deals or more are probably going to end up having financing. So if they've got financing, I'm going to build my system based off the fact that we got financing, okay? So if I've got financing, we're going to get an appraisal. If I'm going to get an appraisal in an average market, let's just talk about, because it could happen sooner, it could happen later, but let's just say it's an average of the appraisal happens and we get the results within, say, 5 days on an average, okay? Sometimes it's going to be a little less. Sometimes the market is going to be a little longer, but let's just call it 5 days. So here's the deal is I know this. If I ask the average agent or TC, when do you check on appraisal? If they're honest, okay, they're going to say, come on, let's just be honest. When do you check
Never.
the appraisal? You check it when someone says, have you heard anything about the appraisal? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
But that's the honest, if they're honest, that's the honest answer. Come on, we can play this game at a different level. Okay? That's being reactive. What if I called the day before that? That's just being proactive, which is reactive sooner in the process. So here's the deal is I know this. Appraisal happens day 1. Usually the next day, nobody calls me as a TC and asks me, how's the appraisal? People give me about a day grace. But if we haven't heard something by day 2 or day 3, someone's calling me, even if they know in this market it might take 5 days for us to get the appraisal. After day 2 or day 3, what do they say? Have you heard anything about the appraisal? So here's what you got to know. You got to know 3 timelines. Now think about how this makes you freakishly predictable, scalable, duplicatable, effective. Keyword effective. I don't really care if any of these things all apply if you're ineffective. So here's how this works. I put a timeline together based on 3 timelines. Number 1, reality. When do we actually get the results? Number 2, when do people ask me, do we have the results? 3rd timeline, when do I ask for updates? So if this is 5 days, and people are going to start asking me 2 to 3 days in, I build my system based off of the fact that I need to be ahead of this, which means I have to ask about the appraisal update before everybody else, which is day 1 or day 2 afterwards. What do I know about day 1 or day 2? Think about this. This should change how your emails look. If you know that the appraisal doesn't even come in for 5 days, results, and on day 2 you say, hey, is there any update? You should be fired. Why should you be fired? Because you're a professional and this is a predictable business. You know for a fact that day 2, the lender doesn't have an update. They just don't. So what do? You actually, because this is a freakishly predictable business, you change your verbiage. So you're doing 2 things. Number 1, I'm ahead of everybody. I am freakishly predictable ahead of everybody because every single task in the entire from contract to post-close, I can do those 3 timelines. What's reality? When do people start asking about it? And how do I get ahead of it? Now that I'm ahead of it, what's the appropriate verbiage? The appropriate verbiage is I'm going to do an email, and that email some people call is the Breckheimer sandwich. I call it a gratitude sandwich, which is it has 4 points. Gratitude, inform or educate, ask or offer, and finish with gratitude. So what does that email sound like? And then I'll tell you who it's actually sent to. Because anybody who just reaches out to the lender and asks for an appraisal update, come on, you can play this game at a higher level than that. You're professionals here, okay? So, gratitude. Hey, good day, one and all. You guys are the best in the frickin' business. Thank you for all your hard work and great communication. What's educate? I know in this market, typically we're seeing that the lender is getting results within about 5 business days, give or take. Ask or offer. Question for lender. Does 5 business days sound about accurate, or have you been notified that you may get the results sooner than 5 business days? Who do I have copied in on this email? Both agents, the title, and the lender. Why do I have everybody copied in? Because in 7th grade, we learned that peer pressure works. And if I just have to ask the lender, he may or may not get back to me. But if I have him in front of a whole audience, he's like, frickin', I hate when Breckheimer does this, because now if I don't answer, I look like I'm not doing my freaking job. Come on, freakishly predictable. People are freakishly predictable. Okay? So I'm putting them in front of a whole audience. What else am I doing? Man, I am effective and efficient, because now he's afraid of not getting back to me because he's in front of a whole audience. But I'm also more efficient because now I'm not emailing him 8 times asking the same question. Then when he finally gives me an answer, I have to then go and update everybody. I'm more efficient than everybody. Okay? Rather than reaching out 8 times, I'm effective on 1 email, max 2. And I don't have to go update everybody because everybody's already included in that. And then what's the last one? Gratitude. Gratitude is, once again, thanks everybody for all your hard work and great communication. Now, if I take those 3 timelines, also what I just did in that email was this. I just helped the lender out. Okay. And I've gotten this message on the back end from other lenders going, you know what? I think I freaking love you. And that's because of this. Rather than me asking the lender for an appraisal update, and then the agent asking, and then the other agent asking, and their buyer asking, I included everybody in to that email, not the buyer, but the professionals. And they're like, dude, you just saved me about 3, 4 emails because you included everybody in. What's the other thing that I did? I basically just helped the lender saying, we don't have it back yet. We don't have it back yet. I already put in the email, hey, by the way, everyone leave the freaking lender alone. I just told you it's going to take close to 5 days. See how well thought out every part of this is. That's scalable. That's duplicatable. It's a template. It's freakishly predictable. It's based on the business that this business is freakishly predictable. What's the other part about being freakishly predictable if I do those 3 timelines on every task within the transaction from contract to post-close? Not only can I do that because all those things are freakishly predictable, who becomes freakishly predictable now to all of his clients? I'm the most freakish, I tell agents this, I'm the most freakishly predictable thing in your life. I didn't say your business, I said your life. They not only can bank on the fact that I'm going to take care of it, but they know exactly how it's going to go down. Exactly how it's going to go down. They don't even bother asking questions.
David, how many transactions were you able to run with this system when you're in active production?
So when I was an agent, you have to remember that I started this business back in 97. And back in 97, we didn't talk about teams. That just really wasn't a thing, more or less. Okay. Second of all, come on, I was an idiot. I didn't know you could have admin. That was a weird concept to me. Okay. So as an agent, you ran the whole business. Okay. So I was a for sale by owner junkie. Okay. And my first 3 years in the business, I never listed less than 8 homes per month. And I usually listed 8 to 12. And why was it 12? Why do I know for a fact the number was 12 for me? Because anytime I listed more than 12 homes, I had to give them away. Because what I found out with no admin, no team, I knew I was only scalable till 12. After that, if I had more listings than that, I would give them away to other people in the office. I just knew I couldn't handle them. Now, I said I was dumb. I had never heard of referrals back then either. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that was. So I just gave them away. I never took a referral. I didn't know what that meant. So I was basically doing 100 transactions per year with no admin. Okay. And I'm also very adamant, and this may rub some other people a different way, is some people, it's all about you got to do whatever it takes to get it done. And I'm so against that philosophy, it's not even funny because they usually don't finish that sentence. What they mean by that, if they're going to be honest, is we'll do whatever it takes to get it done at any cost. And usually what at any cost means, if people are honest with themselves and whoever they're speaking to, at any cost usually means this. There's usually two costs. If you go above 40 hours a week, there are two obvious costs. And I'll tell you where the 40-hour week thing comes from for me. But one cost is relationships. You cannot spend more than 40 hours a week building your business and doing what you do, and that time isn't pulled from somewhere. It just is. And that first place it's pulled from, generally speaking, is relationships. Number two, so that's going to be one cost, is relationships. Number two cost is going to be mental health. You can't tell me that you have the exact same mental health working 40 hours a week as you do 70. Even if I'm wrong, I don't believe that I am. Okay. So where 40 comes in is this. I will never ask or say we will do whatever it takes to get it done. I take the other approach and then I audit it against the 5x5 is, okay, so what would this need to look like if we were only allowed? The key word is allowed. If you're only allowed 40 hours a week, what would it need to look like to get it done if we were only allowed 40? Now, I'm going to make we're just going to do math here for 1 second. 40 hours a week. And you have to know this. I don't see any real estate agent as an agent. If you wake up in the morning and you identify as an agent, we have a problem. That should never be your starting place, ever, 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 ever. You need to wake up in the morning and clearly identify as a small business owner. Not as an agent, you're a small business owner first. You just happen to be a small business owner that provides real estate as a service. Okay? There's a big difference mentality-wise that way. So if I've got 40 hours, but I'm a small business owner, I don't get 40 hours to go lead gen and do deals. That's ridiculous. That's not true. You still have to run a business, manage a business, build a business. So I'm going to use a silly number, okay, because I don't believe that this number is true, but just to use an example. If you had 40 hours and you're going to say you have your on the business and in the business hours, even if your business is only going to get two of your hours a week for on the business activities, which is a ridiculous number in my opinion, but that means you don't have, it's not 40 plus 2 that you work on the business, it's 40 minus 2. And you now have 38 hours to go out and make deals and everything else like that. Why do I do that? Because it's scalable and duplicatable. Okay? You can't tell me that 70 hours is scalable. 60 hours is scalable. There's burnout. You start growing, you add team. Really? You think that you can say God, family, then business, and they're going to stay at 40 hours or less? No, they look at you and they look at your running. And you know what they want to do? Keep up with you. So if you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, if you don't think your team members are going to do that and burn themselves out, you're kidding yourselves. They want to be loved and respected by you. They don't want to be seen as a slacker, so they're doing 40 hours while you're doing 50, 60, 70. So figure out how to do what you're doing and achieve what you're achieving in 40 hours or less. Now that's scalable for a team. Okay. So someone asked, what does this look like from a real estate perspective, more practical? Okay. So this is what it really means to me. The full statement on this graphic is this. Everything needs to be scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient. And everything that I build that is those 5 things needs to produce, and this is key. I don't even care about those first 5 if the second 5 don't exist for me. Everything that you build with those 5 has to produce for you and everyone you interact with. And this is non-negotiable. You and everyone you interact with. Who is that? That's your vendors. That's your team members. That's your customers. That's everybody. Okay. It needs to be able to produce peace, contentment, joy, and be fully informed by gratitude and compassion. So what does that look like in reality? So let's just talk about joy. Okay. Joy. It is not your frickin' job to create joy for anybody, not even yourself. That's not what joy means on here. Not even close. Okay. But you need to be self-aware and hyper-aware of what has an opportunity to steal your joy. It is your job to look at what's happening with your customers and be hyper-aware of what has an opportunity to steal their joy. Now, I know some of us have been in the business for a few years, okay? But come on, the National Association of Realtor every couple of years runs the same question, okay? Since I've been in 97, it's always been the same answer as well, which is they ask buyers and sellers, basically, what's your biggest problem with your agent, biggest negative, however they want to word it. They can word it 500 different ways, and it's always the same answer. Lack of
Communication.
right? Okay. Okay. You got to be kidding me. That has never changed. Okay. So here's the deal is that event could have been special to them. But the fact is statements like this, I felt like I was running the transaction. I feel like I had to chase people down to get information. The fact is that a great thing can be stolen. They could have joy in a transaction, but what has the opportunity within that transaction to steal the joy from them? Okay, lack of communication. So we build systems so not only that doesn't happen, it's impossible. What would a system look like that's scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient look like if it was impossible for a customer to ever give a review that says communication was horrible? What would that system have to look like? It's not my job to bring that client joy, but it is my possibility and my capability to steal joy from them. Okay? That's what that means. Okay? Now, why do I do that? Because I'm compassionate. Oh, wait, that's on that sheet too. Why else do I do it? Because I'm freakishly grateful that I even get a chance to serve these people. Are you kidding me? You can find gratitude in that, can't you? Okay? Here's the other thing is, if while they're going through that transaction and they're not getting the communication that they want, are they experiencing peace and contentment? Not in my world. Not in my world. Now, here's the part that to me, even if we build systems that are freakishly effective for that from the client perspective, then who do we put on the back burner? Our admin. So the way that we achieve this is so stressful for our admin. Our admin now, the way that we have put the systems together, now steals and robs them of their joy. Are you kidding? I got compassion for my admin. And we got burnout on admin. And we got a revolving door. Okay? So I'm going to have compassion. I'm grateful that they are even willing to be a part of my team, let alone serve the people that we serve. And that system that is going to allow us to make sure that the client could never give us a review, ever, 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 that they weren't communicated with from beginning to end at a level that they've never seen, that is achieved in a way that our admins still have peace and contentment while performing it. So this goes all around. This goes to my vendors. A lot of times we forget about the vendors. We think the vendors should just be grateful that we're even sending them business. I'm not going to go out on that tangent, but I could. Okay. Um, I literally approach the same way with the vendors and everything else like that. Scalable, duplicatable. Let's go into one more example from, so that's just like systems between an agent with an admin or communication and your clients and everything. But let's talk about lead generation. Lead generation. Let's talk about the word effective. The amount of times that I see classes around lead generation where kind of one of the common numbers is, you want to be lead genning from 8:30 to 11 o'clock every day or 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock every day. You want to make sure that you're making at least 20 contacts per day. That's not my jam. It's not my vibe. That's not what I'm going after. I ain't going after 20 contacts per day. Okay. And I do just fine. I've always done just fine. Okay. I'd rather talk to literally, and I mean this literally, talk to only 9 people in a month and list 8 of them. You want to talk to 20 people a day? God bless you. Okay. But I ain't worried about churning numbers. I'm going to look at every interaction I have and say, was that effective? Was that effective? Was that effective? And that was a weird thing in our office, when I was doing 8 to 12 listings every single month. And they're like, it's like you don't even go on appointments. I'm like, I did. I went on 8 to 12 appointments. Guys, I'm not a freak of nature. It's not like I'm the greatest salesperson in the world. But when it came to listing appointments, I was never below 90%. I was closing 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Why is that? Every single one of those conversations, I had done my legwork ahead of time. I had been in the neighborhood. I don't go on a listing appointment unless I've already, if I know the listing appointment's here, I'm looking at every home that's on the market. You don't think that I actually scheduled previews on every single property before I went into that listing appointment? And I printed out every single listing. And while I'm walking through the home, I'm taking the most detailed notes you've ever seen. How many agents show up and go, by the way, I was just in all of your competition, 6 homes here, and I lay them out on the table, and here's all my notes on this and stuff like that. Give me your read on all of these. They're like, what the frick? Are you kidding me? And you don't think that every single time I went to a house that I didn't do the magic 5, which means this, if a home is here, there's a home to the right of it, a home to the left of it. Now I've got 3 homes, which is the home I'm at, the home to the right, the home to the left, and then there's 3 directly across the street. You don't think I actually went and knocked on the door and had conversations and showed those comps to every single one of those neighbors? I walk into that listing, they think I'm a freak of nature. And I'm telling you, I'm not even that good. I just knew to do my frickin' homework, and I knew to go have some conversations. And I did a lot more things, but I'm just giving you a couple of little examples. That was freakishly scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable. It was effective and efficient. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Anybody who is excited about efficiency needs to slow down. Efficiency will always take a back burner to me to effectiveness. Let's talk about that lender. If I got to chase that lender 8 times to get an answer on a stupid appraisal, are you freaking kidding me? Now it's my problem. How would I become more effective where I could get an answer the first time? The fact that I got an answer the first time means that 7 times I didn't have to bother them, 7 times I didn't have to reach out to them again. I just became more efficient just by worrying about what does it look like if it's effective. Justin, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to share this is, we've talked about this. I have an interesting career. I started in 05. I went through all of these different facets. I have been the admin in so many different facets of the real estate industry. So I know what it is like to be the peon in every facet of this. Like I couldn't figure out how to sell loans when I was a mortgage broker because I was 23. So I found a guy that could sell them and I would process and structure the loans and we'd split them because I had to figure out how to make a buck. But 2017, I'm a new listing agent on this team. We take all these REOs, so we have a concentration of properties, and I take open houses and I try to do them kind of in the same neighborhood because just to get the signs, I know it's like And what happened is like you end up previewing the stuff, like I'm not the best agent, but like, oh well, I'm looking in the same neighborhood, I wonder what it is. And when you're in a neighborhood and you've seen all the competition and the one has the weird backyard and the other one smells like cats, like you are an expert to people that walk in the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't have to know the entire market, but I am an expert on, oh yeah, no, I've seen that one. It's actually kind of weird. That's why it's been sitting on the market. Like it's just the backyard is really funky. It backs up to the road. It doesn't take that much, and I don't know if we have any new agents on here today, but
Yeah.
it's trying to master everything is not possible.
Yep. So
Mastering
let
what
me,
you
Yeah,
can here. I
just
love
real
this.
quick, we were doing our annual business retreat, play business planning sessions in October, and we had a gentleman come in and really hammer this point home about where we're going, right? So
Sean
my
Provencher
goal
with
for
in-game
this,
coaching, David. If you know
yeah,
Sean.
we were or Sean Provencher.
yep.
Anyway, long story short, he's like, okay, what's your goal this year? And last year I was 24 deals or whatever. I hit 20. I was okay. This year my goal is 40. And I said, well, I'm freaking out because now I have to double my output. And then it makes you say those words and then you go, okay, well, I'm going to hit 40. Now I
Yep.
need to either be more effective, more efficient. I have to do all the things that you're discussing. So it just kind of
100%.
rings true in your head like,
Yeah.
hey, man, you're making an effort here today. Stop at that one extra house to take a look and see what they have on your way home because
Yep.
you might sell that one tomorrow. And so thank you for bringing that up. That's the thing that's working for me right now.
It's all about being more effective. I'm not looking to do more work. Okay.
Yeah. I want to do less. Yeah.
For anybody who is okay with this line, this is what I label myself as. I am the most ambitiously lazy person you have ever met.
Amen, brother.
Okay. I am ambitiously lazy and proud of it. Give me a bumper sticker, give me a shirt. I don't care. I'm telling you right now. So I'm telling you this is because I know we don't have a lot of time left. Okay. I want to give you one more thing, which will be the next slide. Everything that I do is based on that 5x5. Everything I do is informed by, filtered through, and audited against. So with that said, every system I build is going to be basically measured through that 5x5. The second thing is that, I'm not going to get spiritual and biblical on you, but I am going to use a biblical example. The fact is there's a story in the Bible, and I won't pull out the verse and read it to you and everything else like that, but I'm telling you the fact is they were building this tower to God and everything else, or to the gods and everything else like that. And God wasn't happy about it. Okay? And here's the deal what is really interesting about that story is how he stopped that from happening. What he did is he gave them all different tongues. Because when they had the same tongue and they had the same vocabulary and they had the same language, they could talk about their love for all these different gods and everything else like that. So what he did is he struck them all with different tongues. And because that, they no longer could communicate with each other and they dispersed. I am telling you this, the power of a unified language and vocabulary is biblical. Okay? It is biblical. You want to have a unified language and vocabulary. So now think about on my team. I give them something to do. If your team can't come right back at you with every single thing that they do and everything you ask them to do and go, David, I love it. I love it. I have just one question. Oh, as soon as they say that, I already know what's going to happen. They're going to throw one of these 10 words at me. They go, I love it. I love it. That's totally scalable. It's totally duplicatable. It's freakishly predictable. I really think that's going to help us to remove anything that could steal them of their joy and our staff for that matter. I do have one question though, I think it would be effective, but it looks like maybe we could actually do this in a way that's a little bit more efficient. One of these 10 words will come up. And they have the vocabulary of knowing exactly how to challenge me. You challenge me on one of these 10 words and we have a unified vocabulary. David, I need clarity on how this meets our standard. of efficiency? And I go, I love that question. Okay. So here's the deal is what you're thinking about is we're taking a little bit more time up front when we're processing that new file. But the fact is what that's going to do is save us about 7 calls throughout the entire transaction. So at the beginning, absolutely, it's not more efficient. It is more effective, but it's not more efficient. But on the whole of the transaction, it's actually more efficient. And I'll tell them why, and they go, oh, frickin', that totally makes sense now. I can't wait to implement that. And if it's not, guess who has more work to do? I got to rethink this a little bit. We got to come up with something better. Same thing. If they want to present something to me, I'll go, I love it. Fantastic. Let me ask you this. I think that's great. And it is fairly scalable. It is freakishly predictable. I'm going to ask this. You're a freaking genius in this role, but what you just asked and how you're asking us to do that, I don't think that's duplicatable. I think that's doable because you're a freak of nature. Okay. But the fact is, if I hire someone tomorrow, they can't do what you do because they don't know what you know. How do we build that into a system so that is freakishly duplicatable? Show me that, then we'll have another conversation. We have a unified language. We can throw this at each other and nobody, I don't care what your role on the team is. If you're the owner or if you just walked in yesterday and say, hey, can I ask for some clarity on something? How is this freakishly predictable? I just don't, I'm missing something. We have a unified language, and the unified language consists of 10 words. Okay? 10 words. I can go into a one-on-one and go, let me ask you this. Based on our systems, based on communication, based on whatever, right now on our team, what has an opportunity to steal your joy? You don't think you're going to have an interesting one-on-one conversation? You got to be kidding me. Okay? It's a unified language. The last thing I would tell you is this. Yes, I build every system. It is informed by, filtered through, and audited against this. Yes, everything that I do is based on a unified language. We speak the same language, and anybody can bring up those 10 words to anybody. There is no hierarchy on that vocabulary. The last thing is this. Is if you haven't realized that you can train your AIs, we don't have time. Gosh dang, if we had another 15 minutes, I would open up my chat GPT. I have trained this thing like nobody's business. It's incapable at this point of answering and helping me and working through anything without talking to me about peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, compassion, scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient. It is so trained in that, you can't believe it. I have customized my AI tools that they speak the same unified language I do. And anything I build, write, talk about, it is trained to challenge me. Explain to me how that's duplicatable. Explain to me how that's. I have trained my AI to challenge me on the 5x5 on everything I do. Okay. Justin, is any of this helpful? I know we're short on time. Is there anything? Because you and I have had these conversations for years now.
Yep.
So what did you
think
need your
tools
people to
that I
hear
would-
that I haven't had a chance to talk about?
Well, so what's interesting is David's a real estate coach. And David years ago decided, hey, I'm going to focus on TCs because agents will hear me and they'll ask, but no one's going after this niche. And if you're looking for leverage, if you're looking for one place to start, cultivatewins.com has some resources. It's got some TC resources. They're excellent. I started in real estate. I had a TC company in 2010. Taught myself to be a TC, which is comical. If you've interacted with me, you think I'm not organized, but you can do anything. It's just not efficient, right? I cheated and worked extra hours, but there's an email management as a skill. And if you're
Yeah.
working with a remote partner, if you want to speak the same language, I am telling you, you don't think you need to hear 10 to 15 minutes about your email subject line until you hear David do it, where you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, if I use the same subject line all of the time, would I create more predictability, contentment, joy for people in the transaction? So if you're looking for some resources, that's a free course.
Yep.
there. Everybody should take it. Everybody in Casa, everybody in the Gain Network should take that thing. I've had Julianne. Julianne's my partner. Go through that, and then like that's my commitment. That's what I'm going to walk away from. Is I'm going to go back and really look at our email
Yeah.
because that's the place to start.
I will tell you right now is when I decided to give, I'm going to call it the TCs, some love. Um, I definitely coach a number of independent TC businesses across the country. One of them that I'll be going on the jumping on a call with here shortly. They closed 4,000 transactions or over 4,000 transactions last year. They're a great organization. They're wonderful, okay? But they know that they are not scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient. So they're working with me. And I talk more about TCs than anything else. And here's the reason why is I get real estate coaching clients and broker coaching clients, and also I coach a lot of the I'll just say the softwares that all of you guys are using. A lot of those software companies, I'm their consultant and I'm their coach for a lot of the real estate software out there. And I don't talk about those a lot. Why? Every agent knows that coaching is a good thing. And every agent out there knows that there's a million coaches available. It's just the admin side doesn't even think that for some reason they were given the idea of our agents get coaching and then we just have to do the work type thing. And so that's why I marketed it that way. But if anybody needs help or anything else like that, I coach just as many agents as I do brokers, as I do software consulting for real estate teams and everything else like that. But I'm going to talk till I'm blue in the face probably about a half a dozen concepts. I am freakishly predictable. When you ask me a question, you're going to go, I think I already know what you're going to say, but let's talk through it. Okay, great. Great. That's what I
Does
want.
anybody have a takeaway or a question, Drew? You got anything? I know Drew's gonna have to jump. He's got a hard out, but
I blown away by how awesome this is. I want to take the everything I can from David, but again, freakishly predictable is huge for me. But the one thing that I got that's like, and I did 3 years of no joy, right? So self-aware of what brings and steals joy.
Yep.
I did 3 years in a gig that would suck the joy out of me the minute the alarm clock went off.
Yep.
And I'm never doing that again, brother. And just being self-aware of what brings me joy is something that I'm struggling with right now. And
Yep.
I'm thriving with as well because I'm learning what to gravitate to.
Drew, and I know you've got a hard out, so I'm going
Yeah.
to give you one last thing. And I want it to be a visual so that everybody can see this. People, it is a common phrase. There's almost like memes coming out of our ears for this. Find what brings you joy and do more of it. I hate that line like nobody's business. That is garbage. Okay. A lot of us are so busy anyways. The idea of even if we found what brings us joy, the idea of doing more of anything, come on, we're stressed out with how much we're doing already. And now you want to tell me to do freaking more of something? Give me a break. Okay. So let's look at it this way. Think about this. If there's a scale of what brings me joy and what has an opportunity to steal my joy, what I'm going to tell you is this. Worry less about finding what brings you joy and worry more about being freakishly self-aware of what has an opportunity to steal your joy and frickin' deal with that. If you deal with what has an opportunity to steal your joy and you reduce it, what is left?
Joy.
Okay? Figure out what has an opportunity to steal your joy, deal with it, get rid of it. Get rid of it. That simple mindset is a game changer for me personally. And I'm telling you right now, it will affect your business, it will affect your relationships, your marriage, and everything. If I look at what has an opportunity to bring me joy in my marriage, I'm telling you right now, it's much more effective for me to think about what has an opportunity to steal the joy in my marriage and frickin' deal with that and make sure we get rid of it. So I hope that helps, Drew.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a
Big
little
time.
passionate, so I apologize, but
No, don't apologize,
it's
please. That was perfect. I needed
these
to
are
hear that.
passion topics for me for sure. And if whatever we talk about can't be applied as well personally as professionally, I'm out. I want to be one consistent human from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and who I am sometimes is who I am all the time. So think about your systems that way. If that system can't be applied to my personal life, I'm probably not that interested in that concept, core concept, principle, and system being applied to my business. Because I don't do business and then flip a switch and then go see my wife. I want to be one consistent human from beginning to end. Who I am sometimes is who I am all the time. It's exhausting to do it otherwise for me, switching back and forth. I don't have the energy for that. So
Thanks, David.
Anybody have a takeaway, an aha, anything? I know I saw lots of nodding. I'm just curious to hear if anybody realized something stealing joy from them.
I just really like where you kind of talked about the fact that you don't have to do 3 times as much work to get the results, like
Yep.
focusing on effectiveness first. And
Yeah.
of course, it's something that I knew. So, but just kind of
To
hearing
hear
it
it.
again. Yes.
Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
am now, it's like, okay, how do
I think
you
we put
shift that?
efficiencies almost on a pedestal. We put
Yes.
efficiencies on a pedestal, but if we actually put effectiveness on a pedestal, if you're
Mhm.
freakishly effective, 9 times out of 10, the result is you become more efficient anyways.
Right.
So I
Right.
focus more on, is that freakishly effective? The last thing I didn't say about that, and I hope, Cherie, this helps as well. Everything for me is based on a 3-month cycle. Okay. I'm not a big fan of annual, just not. Okay. Because as far as I'm concerned, you give me a year of something, I'm going to screw something up. I'm going to get off track, or I'm going to think I got more time than I do, or whatever. So everything's based on a 3-month cycle for me. So the last thing about that 3-month cycle is this. When I do an audit at 3 months, not only do I actually audit everything against the 5x5 and is what we're doing effective and is it scalable, duplicatable? The last question that's not on here is it still relevant? Relevancy is a big deal. So let's just use an example. There might be something that I'm doing that was effective. Okay. That doesn't mean 3 months from now that will still be effective. So let's use one kind of ridiculous example, but we all remember it. Come on, go 5, 10 years back, and there were so many books. Now, I'm a gratitude junkie, so don't get me wrong. And Justin knows this about me. I am a gratitude junkie, okay? But 5, 10 years ago in the corporate world, everything was about gratitude. And let's start every meeting with going around the table and everybody say something that they're grateful for. Okay, so that was great for about 3 meetings, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, whatever it is. But then after a couple weeks or a couple meetings or whatever, people weren't thinking all night and all morning about what they're grateful for and couldn't wait to share it. When did they think about what they were grateful for? When it was about one person away from them. Okay? And they said whatever they needed to say to move on to the next person. It's not that that isn't great, but what did it become? It became no longer relevant. It was no longer effective. Okay. So maybe it would still be effective if they were doing it maybe every quarter or something like that versus, okay, we're meeting 5 days a week and we got to do this again. You got to be kidding me. I mean, we just spent 5, 10 minutes of the first part of the meeting with that. So look at what you're doing and ask if it's effective. And then every quarter say what we were doing that was effective. Is it still relevant or is it starting to become less potent? Okay. If it doesn't have the same impact, it may not be as relevant as what it was at the time. And that doesn't mean it was a bad thing. It just ran out its life. And you'll see, where is it on here? I even put that down at the bottom line here. Is it effective and still relevant? I think that's an important question when we look at effective as well. When does it start to lose its effectiveness and relevance? Because it might actually still be reasonably effective, but it's starting to lose its relevance. That relevance sometimes is an indicator that I don't know how much longer this is going to be effective. So I hope that helps.
David, thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks
Love you,
for
brother.
pouring in. I'd love to let's have another conversation about AI. We'll set something up. I'd love to go deep on that. I think we could record something that would be really effective we could share with some folks.
And I want to thank everybody just for letting me share my heart, because this really is, these are passion areas for me, 100%, 100%. So thank you
I'm
very
gonna
much.
have to get your physical address so I can send you this hat.
Oh, love it, love it, love it, love it.
Yeah,
Put you in a group
that was
chat. I'll put you in a group
very
chat.
good.
Ian.
Yeah.
I would 100% appreciate that, Aaron. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I will go down there. They're only about 3 miles from my house, so I'll go down there and buy a new one and send it over to you.
I'll make sure Justin has it. And anybody who wants these graphics, I will go ahead and I'll also send Justin a Canva link to it. And I meant that sincerely when I say you literally can take these, open them up in your own Canva, and remove my logo, change the colors to match your branding, put your logo on it, and tell everybody you freaking invented it. I don't care. Okay. If it's going to bring value to you, just steal them. Okay.
And I want to say one thing that I think I hear in my head all the time, David, when I think about you, is what I do in one thing, the way I show up in one place is the way I show up every place.
Who I am sometimes, who I am all the time.
Yeah. And I've seen that in the reverse as well. Yeah, unfortunately. So be excellent today. Go take some territory on this Tuesday. Who are the 10 people you're gonna call today that's a 90% conversion? Be effective. I appreciate you, David.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.